very enthusiastic considering last night. Thank you, I didn't know you were going to say that. So I now recall with clarity. It was Radio 5, BBC Radio Oxford, Kenny Cates. I was driving home in this odd number because I didn't have your name on my phone, and here we are 6 years later. I did ring you during COVID because my business went to pot also during COVID. So we need to sunk together, but we're still here. He's got Frank, I've got Paisley. This is Paisley, named after Bob Paisley. I'll get out of the way, David. David Grace is an Evertonian, of course, so-and-so. He's named after Bob Paisley. My first one was called Shankly, because they were designed never to walk alone. You might meet Paisley later, because he's out there at the moment having a little sleep. He might come in after this. If you're terrified or hate them, say so, but he's in the car because he comes with me everywhere, as you're about to find out. And I hope that, listening to David earlier, that I've entitled this right. It's still about people. I've been involved with Kevin and I suppose this industry for about 6 years. Would that be fair to say, Kevin, loosely? So I've got some bits of it. No great knowledge of it. I can't have Michael's knowledge. I just can't, because I'm not wired that way. But I know roughly what you do. I also know why you do it, because I spend a lot of my time in Ireland, in Northern Ireland. But I'm hoping for the next 45 minutes or so I can still talk about the most important thing, which is people, and of course my dog. Most importantly, I'll speak also about the most beautiful man in football, or he thinks he is, which is Jose Mourinho, because yesterday morning was a remarkable morning, and I'll show a short video to picture yesterday morning. Yesterday morning I set off from home at 6 o'clock to get here for 8 o'clock for a rehearsal, because I thought I was on at 10 o'clock. I was nervous, I had my nice best suit, I ironed my shirt, polished my shoes. I walked into this wonderful ballroom yesterday morning at 8:05. I saw Kevin and David Grace and said, "What the hell are you doing here? You're a day early." I drove home again because my sister had the dog yesterday, and here I am 24 hours later. So it's just good to be back for the second time, 25 hours. I drove home to Lambourne last night, where I live, which is 71 miles from here. I slept beautifully. Apart from 2 o'clock this morning, I woke up to Whitney Houston and Tina Turner, and whoever sang that Tina Turner version, I heard you 70 miles away last night. As for the Backstreet Boys, well, I'm not going there. So over the next 4 or 5 hours, please question my decisions. You must be exhausted. It's only 40 minutes because you have exercises to do, and then at some point you must get home and you've had no sleep. But if you could, just give me 40 minutes of your time. If you hate sport, I can't apologise enough, but this isn't really about sport. It's about people dressed up in my favourite thing of all, which is stories about people. So please question my decisions over the next 40 minutes. I'll be around then for the rest of the day, Kevin. There is no VAR. There is no VAR. A, it takes the drive of your marriage night. And secondly, if I can say also about VAR, be very careful about VAR. About things like VAR, because the more you try and be perfect and get everything right, you lose what you had. You lose the joy, you lose the fun, you lose the point of it. So be careful of being this quest for being the most perfect human being of all time, which you could be, but you might leave your soul in the corner, and that's what makes you a good person in the first place. And VAR, bless it gets things right and wrong, but it's actually taking joy out of the most joyous thing in the world, which was a simple game of footy on a Saturday afternoon. So, if I may, I work at Brentford for the past 7 years. This is my Danish manager. His name is Thomas Frank. And last year, we were having a very difficult season. And most seasons for us are very difficult because we haven't got the wealth and the resource of the biggest teams, the history, the fan base, the money, the players. So we have to battle and fight for everything we get and be quite cute around it as well. But last year we went 9 games without a win, and we were dropping down the league towards that dreaded dotted line, relegation, which broke the club in half. And one day at lunch we went, "Michael, how is everyone?" I went, "Oh, you know how it is, Thomas," in that very British way. He goes, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, you know what it's like." He goes, "No, I don't, I'm Danish." "Well, you know." He goes, "No, I don't. Tell me what do you mean." I said, "They're shitting themselves." I went, "Thank you, that's better." That's better. He said, "Michael, let me give you a tip about you. I've known you 7 years. We're good friends now." He said, "You are at your best when you're at your simplest. So if I may, for the next 40 minutes, may I be at my simplest." The previous year, he stopped me in my tracks. We were having lunch after training. We were having a slightly better run, so everyone was far more relaxed. I was more relaxed, because when things aren't going well in life, you're less relaxed. It's not difficult. He said, "Michael." I said, "Yes, Thomas. I'm so jealous of you." Now, this was the week he signed his new 4-year lucrative deal. And I said, you think you're jealous? I'm jealous of you with that 4-year deal, the house being built in Malacca, the skiing holidays, and financial security for life. He said, no, I'm more jealous of you. I said, why? You can't be. He said, because you've got the one thing I'll never have again in this job, and most people will never have again in this job, in this club. In fact, most people will never have again. I said, what is that? I'm not the youngest, I'm not the most gorgeous, I'm not the most wealthiest, I lost a lot in COVID. He said, you've got time. You've got time. I'm so jealous of you because you walk around, brackets, doing nothing, and you've got time. And I do. If you ask my colleagues at Brentford, what does Michael do? He walks around a bit with his dog, and that's probably about it. He says, you've got time. And he's right, I've got time. And I want to speak about time today for 40 minutes, ironically, and about trust, and about people. And I hope my relationship with Thomas and the staff and the players, although we all fall out a lot, I hope it is generally built on trust. Because without trust, I think we're going absolutely nowhere. And I didn't know that Cork would get a mention this morning. And this is one of Cork's famous children, Roy Keane, and the eyes still have it, by the way. And the reason I talk about Roy Keane is a clip I'm going to show you from the Euros in a moment. And you can love Roy or loathe Roy, but he's Roy, and that film, when it comes out, about his row with Mick McCarthy, will be fascinating next year. But I want to think about times. You must have time for people. I've only got 40 minutes with you now, so I'm wary of the time, but we must have time for each other. Time to build trust, time to keep trust, time to trust each other, because there's lots of different people with different histories and different stories and different personalities. And through the madness of modern life, which is fast and fast-paced, you'll check your phone throughout the morning, throughout the afternoon, you'll check in with your phone, your tickets on your phone, your bank accounts on your phone, your life is on your phone. And we haven't got enough time now for people. And this clip from the Euros, from ITV, got me. It got me because he's right. Roy Keane says you can be successful, but you still got to find time for people. Now, you can love Roy, loathe Roy. If you got me into the bank, fair play. What the hell are you doing here, by the way? But find time for people if you can. And there's a million definitions of trust out there. There's books and theories and seminars and webinars and workshops and anything you like on trust. But yonks ago, many, many years ago, I met a guy from Australia called Paddy. And we got talking about trust. You know, Mike, I'm going to use a cricket analogy, as in CCC, like County Cricket Club. I said, what's your definition of trust then, Paddy? And we still speak. He goes, it's simple. People have to know the answer to 3 questions about trust. Number 1, are you competent? The first one, are you competent? Are you of good character? And do you care about me or do you care about us? And actually, if I can leave that one slide, are you competent? Are you of good character? And do you care about me and us? Elections are won and lost on that. Businesses are won and lost on that. Sales are won and lost on that. Wives, husbands, spouses are won and lost on that. Are you competent? Are you of good character? And do you care about us? Answer those 3 questions and we have half a chance. So if I may, when I first worked with Kevin overseas, we worked with John Prescott, Kevin, in Croatia. An amazing 3 days. Possibly one of the, and I still keep in touch with Kevin from the One Show or BBC, whatever it is. Don't watch much daytime TV myself, thankfully. And John Prescott was there. He died 2 weeks ago. And I was struck by all the tributes to him about his work with the former Prime Minister. And if you don't support that, that isn't the point. The point was that that Prime Minister on the left, Mr. Blair, wouldn't have survived without John Prescott, because he trusted him. He gave him the right advice. He was of good character, he was competent, and he cared about him, and he cared about the country and the government and the party. So that was number 1. And I know there's quite a large audience here from Northern Ireland, so I thought I'd throw this one in, because I had the pleasure of working for a year with Michael O'Neill, and in particular Jimmy Nicholl on the left, who played for Northern Ireland, that great team of the 80s. A fabulous man. If you know Jimmy, your life's enriched, because he's the most remarkable man. John Prescott didn't want to be Prime Minister. Jimmy doesn't want to be manager of Northern Ireland. I will hasten to add at this point that my arrival with Northern Ireland coincided with the worst run in their entire history. I have not been involved in this campaign, the Nations League. It's been the best campaign in history. Spot the link there between the 2. But the link also is having someone you can trust that will give you honest, straightforward advice, because they care about you. Now, this is meant to be about sports psychology, it's meant to be about people. You might have been expecting something brilliant and clever, but it's not. It's about people. And I had the pleasure of getting to know Jimmy. He's the most remarkable man, full of stories, full of humour, full of knowledge. I've never known a man make notes like it, about people, about teams, about matches. He taught me so much. Small thing he taught me also is that the day before a game, this was in Copenhagen, he takes his own boots, he takes his own little kit of polish, his own dubbin, and he polishes his own boots. People call it old school, I call it right school. And he sits down, he gets his little packet out of his polish and his gloves, and his little cloth, and he polishes his boots whilst telling me stories. And then before the game, he noticed that the very young fullback, the brilliant young player at Liverpool, Conor Bradley, and he went over and spent 5 minutes with Conor. The next day I asked Jimmy what he told him, and I asked Conor what he told him. And Jimmy knew that Conor was playing in this stadium in Copenhagen for the first time. Very enclosed, tight stadium. And he was telling you what it was like, what happens to you as a youngster. You play in these big stadiums with the crowd right next to you. Is you get a bit fast. You get anxious. You start playing things too quickly because you think the crowd's on top of you. And he's just whispering quietly, Conor, come here. I'm telling him. I asked Conor the next day, I said, what was Jimmy telling you? He just calmed me down, Michael. I was getting a bit, I can tell I was getting a bit too fast. And he just came over and spoke to me for 5 minutes. So it isn't the big things that make the biggest difference. It's those moments of trust when people take the time to talk to you. That was me when I was a young man. Conor Bradley's age 20, I dreamt of being a jockey. I left home to live in Lambourne, where I still live 43 years later, thankfully. I was a stable boy, a groom, I wasn't a jockey. I tried to become a jockey. I wanted to become a jockey. I looked after those gorgeous animals. 3 things, as you know, Kevin's heard this before, but it's true. 3 things stopped me during the next AP McCoy. I was a bit too tall, sadly. I couldn't do anything about it. I ate nothing, but I was still too heavy. And thirdly, most importantly, I was shit. So apart from those, I would have become the next AP McCoy. And there I am in 1980, in a bucket, with the boots, the Wellington boots, 3 miles from where I live now. That's Ginge. If I mention the names now of all these people, you might be, because there was a Jock, a Scouse, a Brummie, a Mick, a Taff, a Dave, and me, and I was not called any of those because I was called a lot shorter names than that, because I was no good. I was absolutely rubbish. But what a time we had 43 years ago. And in the intervening 43 years, and this is not a word of a lie, on my father's memory, a good St Helens man, Michael himself, in the intervening 43 years, not one of us has been late for work. In fact, I was 25 hours early yesterday. We've not been late for work. There's Taff from left to right. There's Taff, Dick, Dave Hump, Ginge, Jonesy, Steve Norton, and myself. We're meeting up on the 15th of February this year for our biannual day at the races or a day at the match. We go to a game, we go for a few pints, we have something to eat. And 43 years later, so I'm retired now. There's been a lot of tragedy in that, as you can imagine, with 7 middle-aged men, old-aged men. A lot has happened in our lives. But as Steve said, he lost a daughter sadly 2 years ago. He said, Michael, tell people there's no friendships as strong as this. And you can quote me on that, and there aren't, because we're still together 43 years later. Because we care about each other. We're all different. I'm very different. I never sat on a horse. I was rubbish, but they looked after me. Then I met a fellow from Northern Ireland called AP McCoy, who became quite good at being a jockey. An angry, miserable sod he was too. God, he was angry. He couldn't eat anything. And he was cross, and he was grumpy, he was moody, because like most Northern Irish sports people, he had ambition and bite and fight, as they do. And he became quite good at what he did. And if any of his family in the room now, I loved a bit, he's still a neighbour, but God, he's a miserable so-and-so. But one day, when he was injured, again, we were going on a walk, and he said, I've been to see a sports psychologist. I said, I know you have, I sent you. He went, he was no good. I went, actually, he's the best in the country. And I said, he is, he's good, but he doesn't get me. You get my madness. I went, oh, that's kind of you. He said, you're our chief executive, aren't you? I said, yes, of the Professional Jockeys Association. He said, forget that, go and train as a psychologist. I went, you what? He said, go and train as a psychologist. You'd be good at it. You get my madness. You get all the madness of performance and trying to be good at something. So stupidly, age 40, I did. And 3 years later, I began to qualify. I resigned 4 years later from a good salary with a nice car and a nice phone and a nice staff, and went back to zero. Didn't collect 200 quid, more skin than I was in COVID, but thanks to him, it was a good decision. But in the same year I started training in 1999, I met an Olympic coach, also in Lamble. It all happens in Lamble. And he pulls me over. He goes, Michael, come here. And he's won 5 Olympic golds as a coach. And I said, I'm trained to be a sports psychologist, you know. He went, I know you are. AP's told me. He said, good luck. I said, thank you. I'll be brilliant, won't I? He went, not sure about that. He said, can I give you a tip? I said, what's that? He said, they just want someone to talk to. I went, I'm going to be so much better than that. I'm going to be award-winning. I'm going to conquer the world and own Barbados by my 50th birthday. He went, you won't, because you're full of shit. He said, Michael, they just want someone to talk to. As I stand here, December 2024, 25 years later, it was the most accurate comment I've ever heard about elite sport and about elite performance and about business and about building trades, about politics, about life, about education, all the things I've done since. People still want someone to talk to, who they can trust and go, Kevin, I'm in the dumps here. He goes, I know, come on, let's go for a coffee. And he doesn't tell you what to do, and I wouldn't tell him what to do, but they want someone to talk to. And luckily someone took this picture a few years ago where I work at the Aegeus Bowl, Utility Bowl as it is now in Hampshire. And there's a young man there, luckily his name is hidden by my left arm, and he was beginning to tell me through tears that he wanted to give up being a cricketer. He was England's under-19s best player, he had a great career mapped out in front of him as a cricketer, but he didn't want to do it. He just didn't want the lifestyle, because it's not for everyone. The travel, the scrutiny, the disappointment, it seems amazing, but he didn't want it. And in that conversation, he broke down and he wanted to tell me that he didn't want to play anymore. But how did he tell his parents? How did he tell his coach? How did he tell the players? Because it took him a year to do it, because he thought he was letting them down. But in that moment, he just wanted someone to talk to. And 25 years later, even in that silly thing called the Premier League, more so than ever, people in life, when it gets faster and madder and more complex and more complicated, they still do. The chap on the left there, Eunice Cornack, he's in the squad tonight. We play Aston Villa away, sadly. He played 1 game so far for Brentford in 12 months. He arrived from Turkey, an 18-year-old, and ripped his quad on the first week. For me, the best left wing back in the country, a guy called Rigo Henry, you might not believe me, because he's had 2 ACLs. He hasn't played for 15 months. One of the best midfielders is Josh De Silva, he's not played for 16 months. So they played a total of 1 game between them in over 16 months. They're not buzzing, they're not absolutely, what great being a footballer. They're not. They're worried that their body will never stand up to being a footballer again. And so we sit down, and now and again they sit there and they say nothing. All right, Mike? Yeah, good. You? Yeah. See you, Mike? Yeah, see you, Mike. And that's it. That could be the conversation. That's our head of player care. Because you just don't know what to say or do. You're so disappointed. But sometimes they just want you there to sit with them and go, yeah, come on, let's go. We'll get through this. And that's what I try and do for a living. It's taken me around the world. Yes, we did beat Manchester City twice. So they beat us once this year already, and they do so again because they're still really quite good at what they do. So they should be. Spent 12 years with the Irish cricket team, travelling the world, beating all the best teams, having the time of my life. Steve Bruce, 3 years, grieving hard because you may have heard that his beloved grandson suddenly died overnight, aged 4.5 months, and he's gone back to work somehow because he's hurting. God, he's hurting. And why wouldn't you when you've lost your grandson? Luckiest phone call of my life, Dean Smith, 7 years ago. Michael, I'm at Brentford, do you fancy it? Got an interview, half-day a week, and it's led to this. Scotland rugby, Northants rugby, and then my first ever job in football was with Gareth Southgate at Middlesbrough, who's now transferred. Not into football, I don't think he'll do football again, he's mentioned it himself. He's gone on LinkedIn, Paul so-and-so, and he's now going to be doing this, but believe you me, Kevin, you won't be able to afford it. I don't know. There'll be many more noughts after him than there are after mine, but who cares, we're having the best time of our lives. But he was a huge influence in my life, and he'll be just as good in his next life. At Brentford, I've got the best of fortune to work with Lydia here, who's the first woman to have a full-time male football team to coach with Brentford. She's the under-18s coach, and she's brilliant also. Lieutenant Colonel Lucy Giles, and at the very bottom, Anna West, our sleep scientist, because as some of you might discover this evening when you get home, if your children run towards you and go, Mummy, you're home, Daddy, you're home, You've had 3 hours sleep, you've been thrashing out Whitney Houston all night, and you just want to go to sleep. And you can't, because you've got to be a good person when you get home. And tonight we play Aston Villa. The team will get back at 3 in the morning. They'll be in the morning for recovery because we play again against Newcastle on Saturday. And the only thing that gives us some hope this week, if we sleep well, we might play well. If we sleep badly, I can assure you now, we've got absolutely no chance. But my hero growing up from a father's hometown of St Helens was Bobby Charlton. He died last year, and this, 55,000 million years later, if I may say so, he's my sporting hero. Look at that fellow's face. Look at him. That's me now. I mean, look at that. That's Bobby Charlton. You take the corner. I know. Look, if he falls over on the St John's, I made his leg. Look at his. Look, that's your kids. That's what we were like in 1968. That picture was taken in 1968. And 50,000 years later, this is what it all still means to me, in my view. It gets better to bed in the morning, it got better to bed yesterday morning, far too early to come here, a day early, but who cares? So I have the luck, the joy of working with people, trying to do something they enjoy, and I hope you've enjoyed the last day and a half so far. When I hear that theme tune of Match of the Day, I get, just a little skin goes up, because you think, I watched that as a kid 50 years ago with my dad, and it still gets me to this day. So I thought, very quickly, 5 very brief highlights on Match of the Day. I'm no Gary Lineker, by the way. 5 quick matches about relationships, all about people, something about failure, talking to more people, going for a walk, sitting with people, and finding time for each other. That's not the most scientific and academic list you'll ever see in your life, but it wasn't meant to be. I'm sorry, David, you mentioned Jurgen Klopp, the team across Stanley Park, because David's an Evertonian. I've got bad news for you, David. The new manager's even better than the last one. You're in big trouble now. So, you've got the city. I think you've got the city. You've got the people. You've got the culture. You've got the politics. You've got the history. You've got the music. You've got what they meant. You've got what the city meant to them. And he worked out that relationships were really important. And they are really, really, really important. Whether you're winning or whether you're losing, they're really important. Can I point you in the direction of a young man here called Josh Hiller? That's Bob and that's Lou, but this is Josh, a young man from Hounslow in West London, a Brentford fan. He's now our assistant kit manager. He does all the training for all the bibs, the cones. He's just, there's no better man than Josh. Only young man, 23. And at the end of the season before last, it was clear that our brilliant young goalkeeper, David Ray, was going to go to Arsenal on loan for a permanent move. And that last week, the last week of training, from the old boot room there, the old boot room in Liverpool, David comes over and he goes, Josh, and he was going to give him a little present. He said, oh, thank you, David. He went, no, you're the most important person in this club. He went, oh, stop it. He went, no, you are the most important person. You 3, most important people. Oh, I just washed the kit, mate. No. You're the first person I see in the morning. You look after me, you get me ready for training. If I want more gloves or more bandaging, or you come out. You help me after training. And then when I'm leaving in the afternoon, you're the first person, the last person who goes, see you, David, good luck, see you in the morning. You are the most important person at this football club. And they are, because they are the first person they see, the last person they see. And as we know, if no one does our washing, or helps with our laundry, we get a bit grumpy. So, going back to the Liverpool theme, 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago, when we got promoted, the day we got promoted, the kit manager at Liverpool Football Club called Graham Carter stepped down after many years. He's a boy from St Helens, Michael. Do you know Graham Carter?
It's a common theme running through this.
Do you know Graham Carter?
I don't know.
He's from St Helens. He used to drive the buses in St Helens. And I put it on that platform which Gareth has now joined called LinkedIn. And I normally get between 1 and 2 replies. And on this day I got 1,200 comments and a zillion views about an illegally downloaded video from Sir Kenny Dalglish. But he's a good lad, Kenny, so he wouldn't mind. So this was the video, and it captures perfectly why the kit room matters and why people back at your base matter and why people matter. Not just the CEO, not just the chair, not just the owner, but the raw nuts and bolts of people who keep your business on the road every single day. And somewhere out there, when you go back home, when you go back to where you work and your individual businesses, and you've heard the presentation, I've heard the presentation this morning, there's Graham Carters out there somewhere, and I would treasure them, look after them, because they are you, and they are your business, and they are what you stand for, and they are what your logo stands for. They really are. And this morning, Dave, I've got no embarrassment to say that when I came back here again today, I thought, gosh, how's this going to go? Because I get nervous. It's horrible pretending Michael, isn't it? It's terrifying. Because will the machinery work? It is Michael, by the way. Thank you very much. Sorry about the swear word earlier. It's all said in jest. Because it is about people, and not everything we did in the past was rubbish. I promise you, not everything we did in the past. I've got this privilege now of living in this data-driven digital world, coming from the reverse charge world, of not having a phone in the house. Because Taff, from the yard, I showed you the picture of earlier, he got a letter in 1980 from his mum. And I was living with Taff and all those boys in one hostel. And they said, "Dear David, could you please ring home, love Mam?" Letter. I said, "What?" He rang home. He goes, "What is it?" He goes, "Nothing, love. I haven't heard from you for 6 months. Just wonder how you were. I think they packed the kitchen. What do you reckon?" It was a completely different world. But not everything we did used to fail. Because before training in that old team of Man United, Fergie and Brian Kidd, who knew the names of every single member of the Etihad campus at Man City on his retirement 4 years ago, would take the players for a run. Who was out last night? Who was singing Tina Turner? Who was singing Whitney Houston? Who went to bed at 3 o'clock in the morning? Who was the first to bed? Who was the last? What was it? Because you'd find out, and you could look someone in the eye and go, he knows. Work harder today. He spotted you in that club last night. And it was good, because it wasn't based on what someone else was saying about you. You could look them in the eye, and he knew the names, Brian Kidd, of every single member of staff, 567 people. And in those days, someone would leave a catalogue out as they're running around the outside of the ground. It's someone else's words, psychology. I still believe that people, stories, families, history, it matters a lot. And if you've got one thing out the last day and a half, you know each other better, understand each other better, different backgrounds, diverse backgrounds, different histories, different beliefs, different everything. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. As long as you accept and tolerate and understand each other, because then you've got a chance. And I'm just worried that in the current era we live in, we don't tell enough stories, we don't listen enough to other people's backgrounds and understand them, because we're too busy. Life's got very, very fast. And I hope if I can leave you in the next few moments with that point of people matter, and their history matters, and their families matter. And if you get to know them, and get to know their histories, I've got to know Kevin, I've got to know David a bit. I think they get you a bit, because I know of you and your background and what you stand for. And I think that helps. I think it helps, because then if we're a little fracas or something, at least we've got that base to go back to. My base to go back to on Friday morning, back to work at Brentford in West London. I got a lucky phone call 7.5 years ago. I'm still there, somehow. Tonight, sadly, we play Aston Villa, because the chance of us getting beaten are very, very high, because we don't normally beat Aston Villa. And they should beat us. They're much more powerful than us and much more resourceful. But we'll try again tonight in Birmingham, just up the road. No one had heard of that club a few years ago, but we've done okay. And even to this day, even 5 weeks ago, people still don't know exactly where it is or how to spell it, because they get it mixed up with a shopping centre in Essex, which is a pity, but that's the point. So 5 weeks ago, we played Ipswich Town, won 4-3, an absolute thriller, 96-minute winner from Byron and Boomo. And the report in the paper the next day was, Brentford left themselves with the man. It's Brentford, you fool, it's Brentford, not Brentwood. I've never been to Blueburn Rovers, but there you go. So I thought, that was it. Then we played Bournemouth 2 weeks later, we beat them 3-2. And the sub-editor clearly this was having a bad time. He's probably not there anymore, because he then worked out also that, here's one for you, Dave, Everton. If you can't beat the opposition, you know to try and beat yourself. We beat ourselves 3-2 last week. Unbelievable. People just go, and we love this, because we go, they're still probably not taking us seriously. But yesterday was a good day. We didn't play, because I took two of my godchildren to the match on Saturday under the age of 18, and it cost me a tenner, because now they launched a scheme yesterday, which I think is brilliant, that any child under the age of 18 can watch Brentford home or away for the rest of the season for a tenner. You can't do much for a tenner these days, and the fact that when United are charging 66 quid, that's our advantage, because we know that we can't get fans now from Chelsea and Arsenal and Liverpool and Man City and Barcelona, Miami. We can't, because kids don't think like that. I wanted Bobby Charlton as a kid because he played for Man United, and it was Bobby Charlton. But we're trying to get the next generation interested in us, so that in 10 years' time, they might still go and watch us in 10 years' time. Is it exactly the same as the presentations I heard about this morning from Cork, trying to get the CEO over, and get relationships going, because in 10 years' time, it might pay dividends. Very briefly, if you come to see us 2 years ago, that's all we had. We had a fence. I paid for a bit of that fence. So I gave £100 a year to the Lifeline Society to keep the club alive in 1966. I give £2 a week or £100 a year. I got a fence. We got a fence. We sat on the fence like farmers and we started talking. We didn't have much. We've actually still got the same staff, apart from one person in the middle. We've got the same chefs. We've got Liam, we've got Jordan, we've got Maria from Portugal, we've got Josie, and that's our only permanent building still. We still had Yehor from Ukraine, and we had 3 of the analysts. They've still got the same core of people. And we didn't have much. That was the training ground 2 years ago. That was the office I didn't sit in because it was too cold. That's where Christian Eriksen joined when he came from after his heart attack. And we were under strict instructions. We got an email saying, do not tell Eriksen what the training ground is like or invite him before he signs. Kind regards, CEO. Then he turned up and went, okay, the boys told me it was shit anyway, so it made absolutely no difference. And our captain, Norgard, Christian Norgard, one day during COVID, at the end of the COVID pandemic, we're sat there having our last lateral flow. There's nothing left for our nostrils at this point. In it goes, yeah, fine, go and play. And I said, Christian, how do we get promoted from here? And he said, Michael, this is where we got to know each other, trust each other, there's that word again, and support each other. It isn't about the building, it's who's in the building and how you talk to each other in the building that really matters. But Eriksen did turn up. We had a young player at the time called Matty Jensen, now probably our best player. And you see in the background, there's nothing in there apart from the pitch, there's no buildings, we didn't have anything. Those are the neighbours, that's just a rented school playing field. This was only 2 years ago. And when this ball came back to me, I threw it back to Eriksen, a bit nervously. I said, there you go, Eriksen, Christian, good luck. He went, Michael, stop it, don't worry. He goes, I've got a ball, I've got a pitch, I've got teammates. What more do I need? And we didn't need much else, and we're still trying to stay in the league to this day. 2 years ago, exactly 2 years ago, we got a new building. It's a porter cabin, it's a hell of a porter cabin, mind you, but it's a porter cabin named after our late technical director, Robert Rowan, who died today, 28, from a heart attack. One of the reasons which linked Eriksen to the club, because Eriksen also had the same heart illness. So there it is, that's our gorgeous new training facility. Look at it. You can shower, you can change, you can have a cup of tea, you can have a game of pool, and you can walk down the red carpet to train. And also now the head coach said to me, Michael, how's the mood? How's the mood? And I go, it's good, but we have a problem. More people, more meetings, more meetings, more people, more people, more meetings, more meetings, more people, more emails. I said, the trouble is, everyone's in a meeting these days, so we talk less. So we're meant to talk more in a meeting, but we're talking less. He went, what's your point? I said, we just need to talk more and maybe less meetings. And this was something I worked out from other clubs, is when you get more successful, as you are, because everything says you're getting better, get better, but not bigger, and also don't get anything new. We want you to be sexy and shiny, but just get better. And I love that phrase, because the danger is we'll have too many meetings. This was a book written about meetings by former England cricketer and selector Ed Smith. And he said, please be wary that if we have a meeting, have a good meeting, like a good conference. But if not, there's nothing like the power of conversation to explore ideas. And I hope that's been happening a lot in the last 2 days. Brendan McCullum and Ben Stokes, the England captain and coach, he cancelled meetings because they weren't working. And I've sat through 1 million team meetings, and players very rarely listen because they get a bit bored. So have those powerful private conversations, because you follow your business and industry. James Timpson, now the Prisons Minister, said sometimes meetings can be a waste of time. But just have high standards, and the small things really, really matter to people. I've got a few minutes left, just to summarise, if I may, and I'll show you a short film and then you'll meet my assistant in a few moments' time. At this football club, we lose an awful lot. We still only win 1 in 3 at best. We argue a lot, because it's emotional and it's tense. It's unbelievably stressful. I promise you, it looks amazing, and it is. It's the luckiest job in the world. It's also really stressful because sometimes you get 50,000 people telling you you're shit a lot. And often we are, and it's brutal. We get scared. We get scared with the games, with the scrutiny, because we've never been at this level before. And we get scared. Believe you me, we get scared. We get criticised, we make an awful lot of mistakes, we get really tired. especially this week, because we're on the road for 2 weeks now. I think there's one day off between now and New Year's Day. We get really tired. It's brilliant, but we get tired. We can go very quiet because we then go very defensive, and it's not always enjoyable, especially against those bastards, because they always beat us in the last minute, and they did last year, and they did this year. But we believe, if I can leave you with this, we believe in what we do a lot. And when we do get tired and we fall out, and my word, we fall out, at least that gets us through it. So please, please, please keep talking to each other. There is my office. That is my new office. I've got 4 offices now at Brentford, and that's one of them. That's the first one. I bought a bench. I gave it to them 2 years ago. I came into work on Monday morning. It had been delivered on Friday. And the president went, "Mike, you're here?" I said, "Yes, we thought you were dead." That bench. That's my bench. And we sit down and we just sit and we talk nonsense or rubbish or shit. And we just sit there and we chat away. That's the captain of Ireland, Nathan Collins. That picture was taken professionally, would you believe? We were having a chat the other week after he captained his country for the first time, proudest day of his life against England at Wembley. And the club photographer pictured it. And he was telling me what it was like to captain his country at Wembley. They got walloped. It didn't matter. It was a gorgeous, gorgeous moment. With Ben Mee, he's launching his business tomorrow night. He's got a business he's launching. I'm going to it tomorrow night. We discussed it on the bench. Pontus Jansson discussed his move back to Malmo on the bench. Ethan Pinnock tells me about what it's like to get rejected and play non-league football and then play Premier League. And Brian Mbeumo, a French Cameroonian genius winger. Lovely, lovely people. We just sit on the bench, me dressed like a school teacher, and we chat things through. The All Blacks came for a day. Big lads, my word, they're big lads. AP came for a day, because the owner said, "Do you know AP McCoy?" Well, yeah, I do. Yeah, bring him in. So I did. And we sat on the bench. And Pontus came back last week to go in our Hall of Fame. He went, "Michael, you still have your office?" I said, "Yes, and I'm still talking shit." And then last week, I may have said, "Did I see you, Kevin, last week?" The club said, "Michael, do an interview. The papers are asking about the dog." I went, "All right, I'll do an interview." So what about? I said, "Anything you like." So I did. And blow me down, they came out and they interviewed me and the dog and we spoke about stuff. And the reaction, again, surprised me. I don't go looking for it. I haven't got an agent. I haven't got anything. I just talk. And there it was. And they took this gorgeous picture. Professionally taken. As you can tell, there's lights and I wouldn't mind a bit of makeup, to be fair, but there you go. But what a gorgeous picture. And I, present to myself for Christmas, that is getting framed. And the manager said, "Michael, why don't we talk more?" I said, "Because you're always in a bloody meeting." The players get injured. Keane Lewis-Potter, who's played 11 games on the spin, finally, because his leg works now. He came from Hull. He was out for a year. He couldn't get picked. He had his lip training on the car park. He'd come in the morning. So we started going on walks with the players to rehab them because they couldn't train, they couldn't do anything. And then a year ago, the Premier League filmed it. I didn't know they were filming it for a film to go out on public social media. They did. Last film of the day, go for a walk and you'll find out anything you want. Maybe that's well talking about trust. And just explain when Keane hopefully plays well again tonight. Said that he's not heard a bad word against him. He was referring to the dog. He does come in. He was in there 2 days ago. He'll be in there on Friday. In fact, he's helping a member of staff. He's terrified of animals, and he's now walking himself and stroking because, as you'll see later, if you allow him, he's a very soft, kind animal. And that's Yehor Yarmolenko. He may well play tonight against Aston Villa for his biggest game of his career. I don't know if he is, haven't seen the team yet, but he may well do. He'll be in the squad, and he's not been home for 3.5 years now. He's from Ukraine. He's from a farming family in just outside Dnipro, and he loves taking the dog for a walk because it just gives him, reminds him of home. So these things do matter, and those are the things we talk about. It's not 4-3-3. It's not. He's going to take over from Gary Lineker. It's just about the stuff which really matters, because the result will always take care of itself. And very quickly before I go, because I know that we must have some work to do before lunch, I was asked to work the B team last year, the under-19s basically, the young kids making their way in life. And most of them haven't had an easy start in life or football, so there's a lot to do with them. And I was much surprised to be asked to work with them, because I'm not 19 myself. And I said, of course I will. And on the first team meeting in July last year, they went, "Mike?" I said, "Yes." He says, "Bench for the first team?" I says, "Yes." "Can we have one?" Oh, 320 quid down the drain. "Yeah, of course you can have one, boys. Yeah, of course you can." I said, "On one condition. You've got to put the plaque on it, because I've got a plaque for the first team, you've got to think of the plaque by 2:30. I'll order the bench at 2:30, it'll come next Monday, but you've got to think of the plaque. I went, all right. I said, come back to me at 2:30 and you'll have the bench ordered. If you don't, no bench. They came back at 2:30. I could have gone to Google, I could have gone to Saatchi & Saatchi, I could have gone to world's best advertising slogan brand makers. Would not have been as good as what 19-year-old kids, who not had the best of luck in life, came up with. And that's what they came up with, Michael's. All the geniuses in this business are in this room. They're somewhere. They might not be David's, or might not be the heads of. David's very good. I like the fella. But they're out there. Everywhere you go, there's talent. If you go and sit down and ask them, and the stuff they've told me on that bunch about their background, their family, their religion, their belief, their faith, the trauma is nothing short of remarkable. I'd like to think that Thomas trusts me. I trust him. And if we do get to 40 points, we go down his local pub in West London, we have fish and chips, a glass of red, and then he says, Michael, summarise the season in 6 or 7 points on the back of a postcard, because I don't want 54,000 pages of data. And that's my best effort. And then at the end of it, the dog goes back home, he watches the sun go down in my garden in Lambourne, and you might come in here later after this meeting if you let me. And thank you for listening, because I kid you not, it's about people, and it's about you, because the rest will happen anyway. I look forward to the rest of the day with you. Thank you for having me back here 2 days running.